All right, welcome back to the Elias Macko Show. Now, mental health crises making headlines in Quebec. There's a couple of note over the last little while. A mother in LaSalle who abandoned her 3-year-old on the side of the road over the summer. And then, of course, there was that incident where a man beat a Jewish father at a park in front of his kids. Now, both were facing charges. Ultimately ruled in both of those cases that they were not criminally responsible for their actions. Now, AMI-Quebec, it's a nonprofit organization that helps families manage the effects of mental illness. They say situations like these could have been avoided in the first place. Let's find out a little bit more. We go to two people with AMI-Quebec. Amir is on the line, the longstanding executive director, along with Perla Muyal, who's the current president. Perla, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us, Elias.
So I'll start with you. Why don't you tell us why this is top of mind for your organization right now?
I think that it's top of mind because I think that by giving this kind of examples, we may be missing looking at the big picture. And while I'm not dismissing or underestimating the seriousness of this situation, I think that we very often fail to look at the bigger context. What can we do in order to avoid or to prevent some of these unfortunate occurrences? And I think that we don't do a very good job at that. And there are a number of examples in the last, while. One of them is what you were talking about. Another one is the expectation of doctors in the hospital to discharge clients within 30 days before they are necessarily ready to leave. And yet another example is what I just read in the newspaper a couple of days ago about the beautiful project of building a transitional housing for unhoused people, but without a very clear plan to move them afterwards to a permanent, they're talking about. We will do that transitionally until we move them to a permanent housing. I'm asking what do we have in plan when affordable housing is such a malignant problem in Montreal? So these are just few examples how we are just focusing on certain situations without looking at the big picture.
And now, Perla, I'm sure I'm not the only one that when I look at the homelessness situation in the city, when I see people on the street, it's clear to me that most of the cases are related to either some type of abuse or like a substance abuse or mental health issues. Okay, so on the prospect of getting people care and then keeping them in care until they are ready to be reintegrated into society, what can we be doing, Perla?
What can we be doing? As Ella was suggesting, the problem begins at the beginning. It's a long journey, and it's from onset to healing. And very often, families find themselves watching an individual disintegrate, whether through drug use, alcohol, or into mental illness. And while desperately seeking support, we have long wait lists at CLSCs, private therapists that cost a lot of money, even if they have sliding scales that are sometimes not attainable for most families. And very often what we do in society is we turn to the police to get our loved ones into a hospital. And as Ella was mentioning, there's a limit to the court orders within the 30 days to release someone from the hospitals. So I'm not sure that we have the solution to your question.
Well, so let me ask Ella here on do we need legislative changes? Do we need laws to be changed so that we can keep people in hospitals, in care, sometimes against their will, longer?
Well, I'm not sure that this is really the right approach. I think that the approach is to have sufficient services in the hospital, in the CLSCs, in the community, that we wouldn't necessarily have to legislate or to change the legislation. And I think that this, again, is not something that we are doing properly. I think that, the role of families is very often complementing the role of the public system, but I don't think that they are really given their proper share in the way they can actually mitigate some of the risks that you are talking about.
Can Perla, I don't know if you want to tackle the discussion on Bill 38. I hear that Quebec psychiatrists are proposing the reform of Bill 38 to add some measures here, making it less onerous for psychiatrists to keep an unstable patient in hospital. Your thoughts there? I don't know if you go down the same path.
I think that the psychiatrists who were quoted in the Journal de Montreal article are actually looking to admit people before there's a full-on crisis. I'm on the fence about that because, we've always tried to balance the human rights of individuals who are ill as well as the need to kind of protect society. So there needs to be better guidance, I think, for the judges and the court system. There needs to be also better support at the outset of an illness rather than waiting for the crisis itself. So I personally kind of support the psychiatrists in looking at better ways to mandate these laws and look at these laws, but I'm not sure that at what point would you court order someone in advance of having committed a crime, God forbid,
Ella, I'll just wrap up on that balance, right? Because that's one thing that I've been looking at for a while. I think we're out of balance right now when because the rights of that individual versus the rights of people in a neighborhood to feel safe. Where do you think we are on that balance?
Yeah, well, again, I think that we are asking ourselves the wrong question because I think that this is always a tense, balance. But I think that if we have proper services in the hospital and outside of the hospital, especially outside of the hospital, we probably wouldn't have to be so preoccupied with this legislation and also with this tension between the individual's rights and the rights of the public, because there are really no easy answers. But I think that it really behooves on us to look at the big picture, to look at the larger context, and to see what needs to be done, and not just to attend to it piecemeal and say, well, we are going to change the legislation, we are going to solve the problem. It's not going to happen.
Is it just money, Perla?
Well, a lot of money for sure, staffing for sure. I think that there's, as Ella mentioned, an essential role for family caregivers to play in the whole process, the whole journey. There's also an essential requirement, I think, for caregivers to find the tools to help themselves, because they need to find the right words, they need to find the right actions to better understand their loved ones and the illnesses that they're facing. So there's a role for everyone to play on this journey.
All right. I have to leave it there. I want to thank the both of you for coming on this morning. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's Ella, Amir, and Perla Muyal. They're both from AMI-Québec, a nonprofit that helps families manage the effects of mental illness.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years. And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.